Alrighty, welcome everyone to day 4 of Advent to Code. Quickly before I begin, I've noticed that a few people have been commenting that they're newer programmers and they're kind of curious about the Advent to Code or the problems getting harder or stuff of that nature. I just want to say, in my opinion, the first 2 days were very good problems for people who are newer to programming. They were definitely easier, but also challenging for newer programmers. The theory wasn't too difficult, and the code wasn't all that hard to write either. So if you're starting out programming, those first 2 days were pretty good ones to start out with to help practice and learn. Yesterday, day 3, though, was definitely a big increase in difficulty. I know that I now know that each day will get progressively harder. However, I feel like the jump from day 2 to 3 was a pretty big jump. But yeah, so here's hoping today's isn't as big of a jump. But anyways, into the problem. Let me first summarize what today's problem is. So for today, we will be essentially figuring out the password possibilities given some criteria. So the criteria for our password is that it is a 6-digit number. There are a duplicate number entries that are adjacent. So if we have their example is 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, there is a adjacent duplicate numbers there in 2, 2. And then also if you go from left to right in the number, the digits are always the same or increase. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9. Follow that pattern. However, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0 does not, because 0 is less than 5, but the 0 is after the 5. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully the text I put on the screen helps at least with the criteria. But so anyways, so our job is to, given a puzzle input with a lower and upper bound on the password range, we need to count how many valid passwords there are in that range. So to start this off, I already have our static void main. I have our input, but I don't have the actual input in the file. Let me put that in there. All right. So for day 4, I'm going to actually make a constructor for this class because I want to take in the low and then the high values. And I'm just going to do the logic before I worry about the parsing. So I'm going to do the constructor here before I worry about the whole input, whatever. I'm just going to assume that these are correct for now, and I'll come back to this in a bit. So starting with our low, we need to convert this to a list of integers. Let's do, so this is our, how do I want to do this? Do I want to start with a low? So we need to go from our low to our high and calculate all valid passwords. So I guess the first thing actually is to have a list string of valid passwords. Actually, is it just how many different? I'm going to store a list just in case somehow part 2 requires which ones they are. If not, it's not a huge deal, but array list. So again, I could get away with just an integer here, simply counting up how many passwords there are that are valid, but just in case, we're going to actually make it a list. And then the very end, we're going to system.out print line, and we're going to output number of passwords. There's actually possible passwords, but whatever. And we're going to output the size of this list. All right. So we're going to go from low to high. So because of their criteria, there are a few things that'll help us out. Obviously, I'm going to be doing a brute force method, which is to go from low to high, calculate all the passwords there, and find which ones meet our criteria. But there are some of the criteria do help us with shaving off some passwords that we don't need to check. Before we do these for loops, I'm just trying to process in my head what my path to solve this is. Before we do these for loops, I'm going to jump into methods to check our criteria. So public Boolean, I guess just meets criteria. And we're going to take in string, let's do actually int array password. So return true. Okay. So the first criteria we need to meet is that it has, or that is 6 digits. Well, that is going to be given because we're not going to deal with anything that's not 6 digits. So that one's easy, good enough, done. The second one is within the range of our puzzle input. That'll be handled as well. The 2 adjacent digits are the same. All right. So we need to do public Boolean check, was it double digits? Check adjacent digits. Sure, let's call it that. And we'll give it our password. So all we have to do is we just have to verify that there is at least one occurrence where there are 2 adjacent digits that are the same. So let's do for int I equals, actually we'll start at 1, and you'll see why here in a second. While equals 1, while I is less than password.length I plus plus. And so we're going to do a check here. If password I equals password I minus 1, we can return true. Otherwise, continue on. And if we never have a place where I and I minus 1 are the same, we will return false here in the end. The reason why we're starting at 1 here is because of this whole I minus 1. So instead of checking the first one, there's no adjacent digit to check. So we're checking the one we're at and the one before it. I guess I could have done the one we're at and above it, but let's do it this way because this is just what I came up with first. So that method will check for our adjacent digits. So we will first check adjacent digits. If the adjacent digits are incorrect, we will return false because we have not met our criteria. All right. Next criteria after double digits is the increasing, that each digit is increasing over the last. So check increasing digits. This one is pretty basically the same. However, we need to keep track of, actually we don't need to keep track of it. We just need to verify that the one we're at is greater than or equal to the one we are before. So actually we need to flip this and check, is the one we're at less than the one before? If it is, return false. Otherwise, if we get through the whole thing, we return true, because this one is the opposite of the last one. We want to find if it's not true rather than finding if it is true. All right, so after that, I'll do another check here. So if this one fails, we will return false as well. Whoops, pass in password, return false here as well. And then there are one more. Or no, that's the only those two. Okay. So I guess then here we can just return that. Whoops. Just condense things or else IntelliJ yell at me. All right, so now we have our method to check our criteria. So let's go ahead and do this. So this will be current password. And we'll set it equal to a new int of 6 length. First thing we need to do is convert the low into convert this low into here. So we will do for int I equals 0, I is less than 6, I plus plus, plus plus, not plus plus, there we go. And simply set each one equal to low dot char at I, and then do an integer dot parse int. Actually, that won't work, will it? I think that'll give me, yeah, because it's a char. Can't do that. So I need to actually instead substring it at I to I plus 1. The reason why we can't use the char method, because a char in Java is of course an integer, and you can't, Java doesn't really know how to parse one character to an integer because a character is already an integer. It just doesn't really work like that. So we're instead you're going to use a substring to get a string, parse that string. All right, so now that our current password is correctly parsed, let's do our for loops that will increment our password. So of course this will need to be 6 for loops. So int, let's just call this digit 1. Digit 1 will start at whatever, well, it'll always be, it will start at our current password. Actually, is this the best solution? Okay, so I thought about this for a second. I think because this makes the most sense to have it broken up by digits here, but up here for our current password, it makes a little more sense to store it as an integer. I'm going to quickly write a method to convert between our integer and our integer array, or our digits array, if it makes sense. Convert, let's just call it convert to digit pass. Okay, so we are going to have to first convert to, or first convert our int password to a string value of pass, and then create an int array that will be the digits equal to new int array that, and then for int I equals 0, I is less than, I'm gonna do digits dot length just because it's a little bit better than just putting 6 there, because it ties the length of this, or ties the iterations of this to our array, just in case somehow for some reason we want to make a different length password. Instead of changing 6 here and here, we would just change this to like 7 or 8 or whatever, and it would update everywhere, just in case. I guess it's not really a huge deal. Either way, so then we would go ahead and do digits. Basically what we did up here, which is actually what we will do is up here, but we will be doing digits equal to the substring, and this is actually parse string, and then go ahead and return digits. And we will actually be using this method here to do current password there, and we will give it actually, to help us out a bit, make 2 methods. The other one takes in the string of the password, and this one will simply call it, but instead pass the digits through, or pass the string of it through. There we go. Okay. And pass in low. All right, so now we don't need that anymore. Current password's correct. So actually we do need the int version of our current pass. So we'll have our current password digits and our current password here. This will be equal to integer.parseInt on low. Good there. And all right, so now we're back to the whole looping over the current password method. Let me also convert hi. This is the ending password. So we're gonna do a quick while loop while our current password is less than or equal to our ending password. Go ahead and loop. The last thing we will do is increment our current password. And there we go. All right. Honestly, we'll move that in here. So our current password digits, I didn't even need to make this. I didn't make that string method. But we will always be passing in current password. There we go. All right, so now we have our current digits for our password. And yeah, this is a brute force method. I referenced earlier how there are shortcuts we can take. However, I'm not going to be taking them because I am just going to be incrementing our password. I will see how long this runs for. If it runs for a really long time, I might take those shortcuts because they will actually help a lot. But because of processing power, I don't think it'll matter. So what we will do is first just check if this meets our criteria. Password, pass that in. If it does, and it's a valid passwords, we need valid passwords to be a string. What if it's an integer instead of a string? That way we can just pass current password in. There we go. And let's run this. Oh, first we need to do, before we can run it, we need to read in our text input. As always, using our file util. Load file, res, day4, txt, and then we need to get our input and then do some parsing. So actually I'm going to do a string array here of password range set it equal to input dot get 0 because there's only one line of our inputs, and split it on that. I believe that's what's splitting them. Yes, so that's what's splitting them. Split it there, and now we can call new day4 with password range 0 as a low and password range index 1 as our high. And let's see if that works. Let's actually run today's, not have the same issue as yesterday. Oh, it'd be helpful if I typed the main method incorrectly. Go ahead and run today's, and let's see how long it takes to run. Didn't take that long at all. So having to do those shortcuts didn't really hurt us, or not doing the shortcuts didn't really hurt us. And it is not correct because the answer is too high. Okay, we've checked for increasing digits. We have checked adjacent digits. Have we met all the criteria? Real quick, let me verify that the ones they give us as examples pass this method. So system out print line meets criteria, pass it a new int array. We want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Does this pass it? It does not. Well, there's one issue. So let's see if it's that fails. Okay, so it's not that one. It is check increasing digits is probably what fails. Or how would that be the one that fails? Oh, that needs to be like that, doesn't it? Let's try that number instead. No. So it's too high. Okay, so that one valid. What are the other ones I can test? I can test 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0 should give us false. Good. and then 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9 should also be correct. Oh, there's no double, so that's also right. Okay. Welp. Let's see what it's saying valid passwords are. Let's start there. What are some valid passwords we're getting? Oh, well, these are not right. Meets criteria. That does not follow it, because 6, 7, 6, 7, 5, 8, that does not follow. Oh, what are our current password digits? That might be the issue. Current password digits might not be what we think it is. We need to do arrays.toString to actually see what's there. Is that the issue? That oh, well, here's our issue. It's always 0. You know what would help? To do I instead of 0 there. Let's try that as our answer. Hey, there we go. All right, so our whole issue that time was just I had a mistake. It's fine, it happens. Mistakes happen. We're good. So again, I didn't need to do our trick. I will for those who don't know or those haven't figured out, the trick for this is because each digit has to be higher than the one before it or the same. If we were to have used 6 for loops or in some way manually incremented our integers instead of doing it this way, we would have only had to set the value at that specific index equal to or higher than the one before it. So we would, in theory, be able to skip numbers, if that makes sense. I'll try and put an infographic on screen. Maybe, I don't know. But hopefully you at least get where I was going with that whole skip. But anyways, let me read part 2 and we'll get back to it. Okay, so back for part 2, it is still the same thing. However, the only thing that changes is that this check adjacent digits has to be exactly 2. For example, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3 is valid because all adjacent digits that are duplicates are exactly 2 digits long. However, the password 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4 does not work because there are 3 4s in a row. So while they are adjacent duplicates, there's 3 of them in a row. There can only be a max of 2. However, to that, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2 is valid because it still contains that double 2, 2. So that is basically the only thing we'll have to do is adjust this check adjacent digits method. So luckily, we got lucky with how we planned this out, that the only changes we'll need to make are in here. But of course, it'll probably be a little difficult. So we only need to check for double 2s. So I think what we can do all right, now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna change this. I am going to change this to use a counter. So we're gonna do int digit counter int last digit. Okay. So we're gonna do some logic here. So we're gonna do if the last digit equals our current digit. Do some logic here, and let's do this. All right, so if our last digit equals our current one, we increase our digit counter. Otherwise, what we will do is, if our last digit is not equal password, the first thing we will do is in the end set last digit equal to that. We will first check if digit counter equals 2. If it is, we return true because we found a series of 2 digits that are the same back to back, and go from there. We also reset digit counter equals 0 and set, that should be actually all we need. Wait, is this all we need? Is that going to work? Is that legitimate all we needed? Oh, I see that as an option. I don't think that's going to work. Yeah. Too low. Yeah, I see that as an option. Digit counter plus plus. Should return true. Digit counter equals 0. Last digit equals password. How does that still work? Because 6 comes in, it's not equal, it's not 2, sets to 0, last digit 6. Oh, counter should be 1. Let's try that. That's probably our issue. Counter should be 1. And let me try and input this. Still too low. Can I see any examples of it giving a wrong number? I don't see any that are wrong. Oh, you know what? I don't think it's not checking here. We need to check the very last of the last 2. So if this 99 was here, it wouldn't know about that 99, I don't think. Yeah, because it would do the digit counter. Yeah. So we needed to check the very end. All right. Submit this, please. Hey, we got it right. Finally. Cool. All right. Okay. Honestly, this question was much easier than yesterday. The programming was very doable. So if you're a beginner, today's problem is a very good one. The coding aspect of it isn't too difficult. The theory is a little hard. I mean, this will be a challenge. Doing this bit here will be a little challenge for if you're a newer programmer, to figure out how to develop a system. But it's still a very good problem because it's the theory of what you're trying to do is not hard at all for this one. So I think focusing on the programming, it's something you can do. It's not a long program. It's not necessarily a hard program. It's just figuring out the system you want and trying to get it to work is a good challenge. So overall, Sage is a very good problem. Yeah, so to summarize what we did, we first read our file in like normal, split it up to get our low and high range for our password. We do store all the valid passwords. You don't really need to, but I did. From there, we converted our password to a number, as well as stored it as a list or array of digits. That's for processing. And then from there, we loop through all valid passwords, even ones that are invalid. We check the criteria to, one, make sure that all the digits are increasing from left to right or the same, and then also check for the adjacent digits to make sure that you get a occurrence of duplicate digits back to back, and that they're also not 3 of the same digit in a row. As for the second part. And yeah, so for this program, breaking up the checks into separate methods is a big key thing. It makes the code a lot more manageable. And yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed today, and I will see you guys all tomorrow for day 5. Peace out.